Hello everyone, and welcome to this PGA Learn from the Best webinar. My name is Matthew Davis and I'm the Development Representative for the PGA in China. Today's webinar will focus on the growth of golf in Asia, in particular China, and the opportunities this is presenting for PGA professionals. The title of the webinar, Working in China, is designed to give PGA members information about working here, what employers are looking for when they hire candidates, and what's the best way to go about finding employment in Asia. This is the second webinar which focuses on golf and golf development here. The first webinar was recorded back in February 2012, and that's still available to view on the PGA Member Education website. So today I'm delighted to be joined by two speakers that we've assembled. The first one of these, Neil Coulson. Neil was actually on the first webinar we did back in February. Neil is a PGA member and Senior Director of Operations for IMG in Asia. Neil, good to have you on the line. Can you hear me?
I can, yeah. Thanks.
Good to have you with us this afternoon. Based in Singapore, Neil is responsible for providing pre-opening technical services and operational support for IMG's managed golf courses in Asia Pacific. He has over 12 years experience in the golf industry and has worked at several award-winning clubs in Asia, Middle East and Europe. Neil is also IMG representative on the board of the CGA HSBC Junior Golf Program in China. Neil, am I right in thinking you've been in Asia now for just over 4 years?
I have on this trip. I've been in, first moved out here in 1999, and then went back into the UK for a little while, so I've probably been in Asia now for best part of 15 years, probably.
Brilliant. So you've got a lot of experience which hopefully we can share today. Our second speaker on the line is more recently qualified PGA member Jonathan Garrett, who is the head instructor at Land 2 Golf Academy, which is a golf academy based in Shenzhen, which is in Guangdong province in southern China. Jonathan, good to have you with us. Welcome to the line. Can you hear me?
Yeah, very well. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thanks for being here today, Jonathan. Okay, so just to give you a little bit of an overview of how golf is developing in China, there's a lot of attention being paid to Asia. In specific in country of China, where there's approximately 800 golf courses at the moment and around about 1 million golfers. Figures come out, these figures came out I believe in 2011, released by the CGA. There's also approximately 1,000 driving ranges as well in the country. The CGA has stated that the golf is going to increase in China. And about, if you think about if 0.1% of the population take up the game by 2030, this means an increase of 1.3 million golfers. So there is, as I say, there's a huge demand over here for golf. One of the reasons I think that is due to the burgeoning middle class that we see, which is expected to rise significantly in the next few years. But there's also the focus and the well-documented focus on golf now being part of the Olympics and the development of junior programs across the country as a result of that. So my first, what I wanted to do for this webinar was look back in 2012 when we did the first one and see how many members, PGA members we had working in China. And I found that in February 2012 we had 19 PGA members on our database. So a couple of weeks ago I looked on the database again and did the same search and found that we had over 50 members now working in China and Hong Kong, which is a significant increase if you think about it in the last 2 years. As I say, part of my role in China is to assist that flow of members from Europe who are looking to start working out in China, but also to grow the PGA brand and make contact with key stakeholders such as IMG out in Asia. So I've put my contact details details there for anyone that wants to get in touch with me directly. So I'd like to move on to our first panelist today, Neil. I hope you're still on the line. I'd like to maybe start. It'd be good, I think, for those that maybe don't know the extent of what IMG does in Asia. It might be good to have a quick overview of that, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, sure. IMG is a very big footprint presence across Asia Pacific. We're quite well known in the industry historically for managing players and events. Out here in Asia we have a lot of golf events. We manage the majority of the PGA events which take place around the region. We do European Tour, sanctioned events with Asia Tour, and we do a lot of the golf media that gets distributed around the world. On our side of the business, we do golf course design and management. The management business is a growing business in Asia. It's certainly not as developed as it is in Europe or the US. We've currently got 25 projects around here, 15 of those are in China. We're all high-end golf clubs, the majority are private members clubs. We've got two-thirds of those are open, the others currently being developed. So we've got a pretty big presence here. We're by far the largest international management company in Asia.
Fantastic. So Neil, when just a few of your managed and properties on the screen here, when you're looking to recruit candidates on behalf of the company that you're working for at these golf clubs, what are they looking for in a candidate?
I think that the majority of times, if you take China as an example, the clubs in China, some of them are in good locations, which is near a big city, which allows people to adapt fairly easily. There's also a great number of golf courses which are in a much more rural location. So it does depend somewhat on the location of the club as to the person we would look for. They need to be able to adapt to the circumstances that they're going to be put in. For sure, the environment we live in will be very different. The language is a challenge, can be in rural locations. So we would typically look for somebody who's got some good experience in whatever role we're looking for, whether that's teaching or director of golf. And then we would be looking for somebody who we felt would adapt to the particular environment they're going to move into. And somebody who's willing to embrace that environment. I mean, we all know there's lots of challenges with moving to different countries, and Asia, I would say, probably presents a few more challenges than some other Western countries, depending on where you are. So you need to be able to adapt to that. And that's really the judgment call we make when we do the interviews.
Okay, so Asian experience is obviously a key thing. What would you say that the majority would be looking at hiring coaches, or is it more directors of golf, or is there a mixture in Asia that they can do some coaching as well as managing, or what's the sort of the usual package that's put out there?
Yeah, I would say there's many more opportunities for coaching. There's a lot of opportunities, frankly. Mostly a driving range is more than clubs. If you're at a driving range, you would earn more money, arguably, than you would at a golf club, simply through volume. There's some directors of golf opportunities, and there are now becoming more and more general manager opportunities, club manager opportunities. Those club manager roles will typically go to PGA members are quite highly sought after, but they would need to have some kind of club management or very good direct golf exposure before being considered for a club manager. The clubs over here tend to have a huge number of employees, and there's a lot of big budgets, so they do need some experience in order to look after that type of thing.
Okay, and they look to the Western guys for that experience, or are you seeing more clubs now wanting to recruit Chinese or local people into management positions, or is it more that they look to gain experience from the West?
In the past, the golf in China has been very business, so there's not been many suitably qualified local candidates for these jobs, frankly. So they have been using and utilising a lot of Western experience for that. Now, there's a higher number of Chinese candidates for these roles, but I think if you go for a high-end club or somebody who's willing to, or not only willing to bring in people from overseas, but are looking for that positioning statement, they will tend to go for a Western, certainly a golf coach, more so than the general manager probably.
Okay. So your advice to someone that maybe hasn't, who's in say a director of golf position in the UK or in Europe and wants to move out to Asia, but maybe they haven't got the experience of working in that type of culture before. What would your advice be to them? Is it it's not obviously a closed door if they can't. They can certainly get in if they've got the right skills and got the right experience. What would you say is the best way that they could go about finding those opportunities?
As with any job, I think it's a case of making contact. You need to make contact. In Asia, a recommendation is worth a huge amount. And so if you make the effort to go online or use the phone, just phone around people, let people know you're looking for a role. When those roles come about, they're typically not advertised in Asia. So it's word of mouth, and if somebody can recommend somebody that they know, even if they haven't met them, but they're comfortable with them, they know they're looking for a role, that's a way of opening a lot of doors.
Fantastic. At this point, I'd actually like to bring in Jonathan, because I think your story, Jonathan, is obviously something of a role model, if you like, of how you actually came to working in China. And I think you represent a lot of people back in the UK that might be looking to do the same as yourself. So I'd obviously like to thank Neil for his comments there. But Jonathan, I'd like to ask you about how you went about finding employment in China.
Well, very similar to what Neil's just been through, to be honest. I finished my assistant's job. I qualified recently in April 2013. Finished my job as the assistant at the golf club where I was working, and actually decided to come out to China for a month just to see what sort of opportunities were available out here. I'd obviously spoken to yourself quite a bit before I came out. You were very good in contacting people in Hong Kong and China and giving me some links here. So when I got here, I was pretty well set to go and meet these people. And I spent basically a month travelling around China, meeting the people that I'd spoken to over the internet and email, in contact with, and basically spent it as a month to try and work out whether there was the potential for me to find a job here, and also whether if that was the case, whether it was somewhere where I wanted to live. It's a big cultural change to China. It's not as easy as being in the UK or certainly in the West. So it was a good experience for me to spend a month out here, and obviously it worked out pretty well for me in the end.
What are some of the challenges you came across, Jonathan? Obviously wanting to, just talk maybe in terms of since you've been working here. I know you've been here for about 5 or 6 months now. So some of the sort of the challenges and some of the highlights as well of working over here.
I think when I first came, I expected it to be fairly straightforward, but it was a bit of a shock for me when I first got here. The language is a huge barrier, something which I'm having to pick up fairly quickly. Obviously, in China, if you can't speak the language, then trying to do a lesson is very difficult. I've tried my hardest not to use a translator for any of my lessons, but obviously that can sort of stops the flow of the lesson every now and again, and there's a bit of time taken between yourself and the student to sort of figure out exactly what you're trying to explain. But I've been here just over 2 months now that I've been here. My Chinese for the coaching side is getting better. I can pretty much get my way through a lesson now without really stopping or stopping the flow of the lesson, which is a great advantage. I feel as though they get a lot more from it. Aside from that, we've been involved in a lot of golf competitions, organised events. They're on a huge scale compared to what they would be in the UK. I'm used to participating or running events for maybe the golf club where I worked, where you get maybe 50, 60 people playing. I was up at Mission Hills yesterday, taking part in an event that was around there. There must have been nearly 300 golfers playing, and then the presentation. They're huge events. They're great to be part of. It's good for networking, meeting a lot of new people, and a lot of people that have got a lot of contacts and connections in China. So it's very useful in those regards.
Fantastic. Neil, back to you for a question that I've come up with. What's the language barrier like in more of the senior management positions? Are you expected to obviously understand Chinese, but I guess you're going to have a translator, and that'll be provided as part of the deal with it.
Yeah, if you're going in as a club manager or a director of golf, you'll typically have some kind of administration help. So when you're doing that, you have a bilingual person who would also double up as your translator on a day-to-day basis. When you're doing coaching, it's a little more difficult because some places do provide translation help. But I find, just as we were saying just there, I find the more effective coaching is done where you try and pick up a language, and you don't have to wait for the translation. And typically the translators are not really that technically au fait with what you're trying to explain anyway.
Okay, very good. And what about the living? I get often asked about some pros that are looking to move, that have got families, dependents, about coming to China, and what sort of facilities are available for their kids, for example, to go to school. I guess it really depends on what location, around which cities you're working from. Have you got any advice on that, or is it somewhere where you'd come initially for a year without your family, and then obviously whilst you're out here during that year find appropriate schooling, and then look to bring your family out afterwards, or is it would you do it differently from that?
I think the family issue is one that we talk about a lot during interviews. As you go to a senior management role, of course, you're more likely to have family than potentially some of the coaching positions that you'll be coming with. The issue in China is that there's not that many golf clubs which are near major cities, and then not many of those major cities have international schooling. However, I would say that the quality of international schooling in China is excellent, but it is extremely expensive.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you have any sort of general costs that someone would really need to factor in for that schooling? I know that's one of the sort of main considerations for a lot of people.
Yeah, if you're in Shanghai, if you're in an international school in Shanghai, you'll easily be looking at $15,000-$20,000 a year.
Okay, so 15, and that is per child.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
That's one of the high-end international schools now. In the past, there's been employers who are willing to offer schooling help as part of the package for bringing in people from overseas. Now that's becoming a little less. It's becoming less of a part of the package now, along with a few other things, because of supply and demand, frankly. There's many more people now wanting to move to China, so the need for supplying very lavish expatriate packages is diminishing year on year.
Sure, yeah. And what about in terms of the support that the pros? I talked to them a lot about the visa requirements for China. I mentioned obviously the importance of getting the right visas. If a pro was to come and work at one of your managed facilities, would that process be taken care of, or are they left to do that themselves?
If we're bringing anybody into, frankly, any country that requires a work visa, we would take care of the work visa. So they don't need to worry about any of that. They just need to arrive, and we would take care of the accommodation needs, visa requirements, whatever that would be for them to live and work in that environment.
Yeah, I think it's a big consideration. Jonathan, was that the case with you? Did the company help you out, or is it? Have you got any advice?
No, they were pretty good with me. They sorted everything out. I actually accepted the job before I went home, before the end of that month, and they sorted all of the visa application. Now, it did take some time to get it sorted. I think I went home in the middle of September and didn't have everything sorted until I came back on the 1st of November in the end. So it was nearly 6 weeks of waiting, but we got there. We got there in the end. But they kept me up to date with everything that was going on and all the requirements that they needed from my end. So they were very helpful.
Yeah, I think that's a very good bit of advice. I think if you're any pros out there that are maybe communicating with golf clubs in China, that I think it's important to establish who's responsible for the visa from the outset. And I think if you find that those clubs which maybe aren't keen on addressing that issue, maybe you need to be quite careful about pursuing that sort of avenue. It's very important to get obviously the correct visas to work in China, because there are very strict guidelines now which the government have introduced to clamp down, I think, on people working here illegally. So that's something to really sort of consider before anyone's thinking about moving out here for employment. Jonathan, I'd just like to ask you your thoughts on how have you gone about selling yourself as a PGA professional whilst you've been in China? Did you walk into a database of lessons, or did you have to really go out there and start promoting yourself and selling?
I've had to do it pretty much, not all myself. The company have been very good. There's an event side to the academy as well. So we have the academy at the range, but aside from that, we also have an event side to the company. So any events that we run, whether it's for the students or whether it's in cooperation with another company, they will try their best to promote me at these events, whether it's through a challenge hole or a longest drive competition, and anybody that beats me in these events will generally get a free lesson with me, and it's a good way of getting people to come in, and even if it's a free lesson, it's an experience for them. Obviously, it gets my face out there a little bit more. So they've been quite good in promoting myself that way. But I also try and do it. Anywhere I go, I've always got my name cards with me. So if I start talking to anybody, whether it's out for dinner or walking around wherever, I'll always hand them a name card, because you never know where you'll get your lessons from. But it's certainly not easy. It does take a little bit of time. It's taken me 2 months to get to a reasonable amount of lessons per week.
It's just for, I think maybe a few pros come, thinking about working in Asia and think they're going to walk straight into a database. And I know, in a lot of the clubs that isn't the case. It's about, as I say, being creative, I think, and building up your client base. And once you have your clients, I think they will be very loyal to you as a coach. But it's getting to that stage. As I say, it's taken you a few months. Neil, I'd like to go back to you if I could. Ask sort of one final question. We focused obviously on China quite a lot, but what other countries in Asia do you see growth happening? Obviously as part of your business, but also some other, maybe open the eyes to members that are looking to come out to Asia and where they should be really looking, maybe traveling to.
Certainly China receives the most focus, if you like, for Asia, but and there's no doubt the growth there is potentially huge over the next few years. But if you look at countries, more established golfing countries, like Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, there's many existing clubs, hundreds of clubs in these countries. There's lots of coaching opportunities there, probably less so on the senior management side than there would be in China, but there's certainly a lot of coaching opportunities there. The earning potential in these countries is somewhat less than China, just because of the economies in those countries, but you're in a fairly tropical climate, nice way of living down there. So I would say those three countries offer some good opportunities if you're looking for a coaching role. Cambodia's coming onto the golfing map. We just got a new project which is opened up there in Phnom Penh. So that's coming slowly, I would say, coming on. Same for Vietnam. There's several clubs there and several talk about. So there's opportunities all around the region, actually. But it depends on what sort of role you're looking for. If it's more of a senior management role, it's probably China. If it's coaching, there's certainly China, but also some of those other countries offer some opportunities as well.
Fantastic. And as I say, we've got, I think it's approximately 120 PGA members now working in Asia in total, which is obviously growing at a steady rate. And for any people watching this webinar and listening to this webinar, I think one of the best ways to go about finding out more about how golf is developing and what opportunities are in those countries is to, connect with people on the likes of LinkedIn, on the social media sites, and if you are thinking about traveling out here, certainly connect obviously with myself and travel to these clubs and offer to take the pro out for a meal or what have you, to really to sort of chat to them about if it is possible, whether it's important to find out about the area and whether you could see yourself living there and working in these places. That's really the advice I give to a lot of people. So I'd like to really say thanks to Neil over there in Singapore. And also to Jonathan as well for very useful and very informative information today about working here in China and in Asia in general. So thanks guys for your time this morning. I won't keep you any longer. I know you're both very busy. So that's as I say, thank you very much.
No problem. And if I could give any help to anybody who's thinking of coming out here, Matt, you've got my contact details. I'm more than happy to try and help if I can.
That'd be great. No, thank you, Neil. Thank you very much. Jonathan, thank you to you as well. I'll catch up with you very soon. One thing I would like to bring members' attention to in China, in the UK, is a workshop that I'm holding in February. Tuesday the 4th. We'll go through a bit more information about things like employment visas, more information about the golf industry, and a good opportunity to meet face to face as well. So if you would like to book onto that course, then please do contact the CPD at pga.org.uk. So that brings to a conclusion this webinar. I'd like to say personally thank all our speakers again, and I look forward to hopefully meeting a few people in the very short future and talk about working in this developing part of the world. So thanks everyone, and we'll see you soon.